How many people know this, but the real reason why Egon Spangler in the Ghostbusters cartoon is blonde is way more fascinating than you think. Everybody of a certain age knows and loves the real Ghostbusters, the 1986 animated adaptation of the hit 1984 sci-fi comedy classic. It starred Ray Stantz, Winston Zeddemore, Peter Venkman, and Egon Spangler as the titular Ghostbusters. And as a funny aside, Ernie Hudson, the guy who played Winston Zeddemore in the Ghostbusters movie, actually auditioned to play his own voice in the cartoon and lost to Arsenio Hall. However, many people have often wondered, why is Egon platinum blonde in the cartoon? In fact, I made another video about why the real Ghostbusters is called the real Ghostbusters, and it was the #1 question I saw asked in the comments. All the other characters in the cartoon more or less resemble their movie counterparts, and it's just Egon that has this wildly different look. So why? If you look this up online, people will suggest that it's for legal reasons to avoid using the likenesses of the actors. You might not know this, but even though the cartoon was produced by Columbia Pictures, the original producers and rights holders of the Ghostbusters film, it's still very common practice for animated adaptations of movies to change the likenesses of the characters so that they don't have to pay an additional fee to the actors for the use of their likeness. However, this doesn't make sense and can't be the explanation because the character of Egon, even with his original brown hair, still looks completely legally different and distinct from the actor, and the other characters didn't change their hair color, so how could that be the answer? No, the real answer is character design and toy line sales. Most cartoons, particularly from the 80s and 90s, are created solely to sell a line of action figures or dolls. And incidentally, the real Ghostbusters had one of the greatest toy lines of all time. But here's the thing. In real life, while the actors who played these characters, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Harold Ramis, all look very distinct from each other, on paper, when boiled down to cartoon character designs, they're identical. They're just three medium-build white guys with brown hair, which would be confusing to children and make it very difficult for them to choose a favorite, which would make it hard for them to sell all three of the action figures. It's the exact same reason why the Ninja Turtles in the cartoon all have different colored bandanas, they have the first letter of their name on their belt, and they're all different shades of green. That's not how it was in the original comics. In the comics, they were all the exact same color, they had red bandanas, and they did not have the letters on their names, but when they were making the cartoon, they realized they needed to differentiate them in some way so that they could sell all four of the toys. And so for the Ghostbusters cartoon, in order to make the four characters more visually unique so they could sell all four of the action figures, they kept Peter Venkman more or less similar to his movie counterpart, but then they made Ray short and fat, which if you've seen the movie, Dan Aykroyd is not short and fat. He's 6'1", so that change is almost as crazy as the Egon one. And then Egon is super tall and has glasses, but I guess they didn't think that was far enough, and so they gave him that bright platinum blonde hair. And then, I mean, in terms of Winston, they didn't have to change anything for obvious reasons. And real quick, if you like my videos and you want to see more in-depth writing from me, you can do that here.